over in Canada with the Trudeau government introducing a bill to criminalize, say, therapy for those who don't want homosexual urges, to criminalize what's often called conversion therapy. And before I go on, I know people think electroshock when they hear conversion therapy. That's not what conversion therapy is. It's a person who sits down, speaks to a psychologist, and the psychologist helps them to come to terms with issues that are usually induced by sexual abuse when they were children. You know, that's what real conversion therapy is. They talk about that abuse, or they talk about, in many cases, a bad dynamic that they had in the household with a very assertive, overly assertive mother and an absent father, these kind of things. And the therapist tries to help that person reach a point of happiness, reach a point where they can have a family and pursue a normal, happy, healthy life. Instead, we have essentially institutional sexual abuse. Okay, so here we are at LifeSite News. It says Trudeau government introduces bill to criminalize therapy for those with unwanted LGBT identity. That's one way of putting it. I would just say for unwanted homosexual urges, because that's what it is. They feel attraction to somebody of the same sex, and they think, I don't like this, I don't want this, why am I feeling this? And they want to go to a psychologist. Okay, so it's not really identity as much as it's an urge or other feeling. Okay. And you know, by the way, before I go much further on this point, this is Canada. Canada, where they're not doing anything about the terrorists who are derailing trains. I don't know if you've seen, the Rebel News has been covering that really well. It's eco-terrorists who are derailing trains and who, according to the Rebel, are sawing trees in half so they'll intentionally land on people. Now, the Trudeau government isn't doing anything about these things. They're just looking the other way, you know, as eventually somebody's going to get murdered, by these eco-terrorists, but instead they're wanting to get rid of conversion therapy. If you're Canadian, you should support Rebel News, because that's basically all you've got as far as real news. And Justin Trudeau has basically paid off the rest. And I say basically, I mean actually. He's actually paid off the rest of the news outlets to give him fair news, fair coverage, fair, positive. That's what we mean by fair, isn't it? Positive coverage. Okay, now, on this conversion therapy incident, though, the Trudeau government reduced the age of consent for sodomy to 16, helping pedophiles. At the same time, this bill says that you're a child if you're under the age of 18. So, you're 16, you're old enough to consent to sodomy, you're not old enough to consent to talk to a therapist. That's Trudeau's government. It's like they're trying to ensure that these kids are messed up for life. I can't think of a better example than Trudeau of someone who just sold his soul to the devil outright. Okay, let's go. Lametti said that the bill will make it a crime to 1. Cause a minor to undergo conversion therapy. 2. Remove a minor from Canada to undergo conversion therapy. 3. Cause a person to undergo conversion therapy against their will. 4. Profit from conversion therapy. And 5. Advertise conversion therapy. Okay. The first 3 I think I've already gone over. They're making sure that these kids don't have an option. Like, even if the kid wants an option, the kid says, I don't know what's going on, I'm 14, I'm attracted to the same sex, I don't like this, I don't want this. Can I talk to somebody who can help? Instead, they say no. No, you can't. You can't do it in Canada, you can't go anywhere else for it, you can't leave Canada and get help, nothing. And then there's number 4 and 5, which are interesting. You can't profit from, there you go. You can't profit from conversion therapy or advertise conversion therapy. Well, okay, what do you mean by advertise exactly? Because, think about it. You're a psychologist who's offering this service to people. How do you let people know that you're offering the service without advertising? Because you can say that if you have a website that lists your different methods, what you offer, right? What you specialize in even. If you put it there, are you advertising? Well, technically, yes. Technically, you are advertising your service, which would be criminal. And then there's the other point. They're playing the demonetization game, where it's like they learned from big tech how to do this evil crap. you can't profit from it. So the person has to come to you out of the blue, say, do you offer conversion therapy? Even though they would have no reason to think that you did. And then you have to offer them that for free if you want to do it at all. You can't actually make money on this service. Yeah, in other words, they want to ban it outright. They just don't want to say they're going to ban it outright, but that's exactly what they want. Adult, child, doesn't matter. Remember, points 4 and 5 here, they weren't even limited to kids. It was anybody. You can't advertise it, can't charge for it, can't make profit, as it said. They're trying to make sure that people don't get help. And if homosexuality is not curable, then why are they trying so hard to prevent people from getting therapy? Was it going to hurt to sit around and talk about your childhood? I mean, frankly, most people, had some issues in childhood at some point they could, come to terms with and be a little happier if they did come to terms with it. I mean, that's, right? How many people went through high school without getting some issue? No, seriously though. Why the push? Why prevent them from getting therapy related to their childhood, which is what conversion therapy largely is? Now, why is it culturally, too, that, if you see somebody, and he was straight, and then he tells you a year or two later, actually, I think I'm gay. Now, culturally, you're supposed to say, well, that's a revelation. Obviously, the guy has always been gay, and here he is, he came out, right? He's always felt that way. But if somebody who's gay later comes out and says, actually, I'm straight, why is it now that something is wrong? Now he's in denial. You see that dynamic? That's the way our culture is. That suddenly you hear somebody's went from gay to straight and you're like, well, what happened to him? Is he going back in the closet? In other words, he didn't actually become straight. He's still gay, but now he's hiding it. But if it happens the other way, you don't think that at all. If the person goes from straight to gay, then you think, oh, well, he must have been that way all along. How did that happen? And it's kind of really backward, because when somebody recovers, they would be going straight, right? Reasonably speaking, yes. Being gay is, sadly, the outcome of often sexual abuse that they experienced in childhood, like being sodomized at 16 by an adult. What Trudeau just made legal. Yeah, because that law was in place to protect, young boys, largely, from being abused. Because as usual, the gays are after little boys. It's like how we have the NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Association. There is no equivalent. There's no man-girl love club. That doesn't exist. It's man-boy. Yeah. Our entire society is changing to accept pedophilia and encourage pedophilia at this point. And pretty soon, yeah, you're going to have some pedo group as part of the LGBTQ plus IAP. I don't remember the rest. But, it's not going to be long before you've got one openly on the list. Because there is no argument you can't make for, pro-pedophilia that you can also make for homosexuality. You can both say, well, they were listed in the DSM. You can say these different things. They both apply the same way. You know what I'm saying? So eventually they're going to say, well, it's just progression. You accepted homosexuality as a type of sexuality. And similarly, so is minor attraction, whatever sick, phrase they're going to use to justify it. Wait, if you enjoyed that video, please remember to like and share. I can't grow without you. Also, if you want to be reliably notified of new videos, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. If you're able to support the production of these videos, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe at Subscribestar, or maybe get one of the healthier products, or even get some merch.